cuffs are off, man. Get right.
Hey everybody, Adam Rank here.
What's up, friends? Daniel Dopp here from the Fantasy Focused Football Podcast over on ESPN.
It's Fabs here, Michael Fabiano from Sports Illustrated.
Hey fans, this is AJ Dillon of the Green Bay Packers.
I got to give a shout out to y'all at Get Right Fantasy.
You know who you can trust? If you've got some questions about your fantasy squad,
If you are not subscribed, what are you waiting for? You want to lose your league? If you want to check out a cool show on YouTube that'll help you get ready for the fantasy football season,
check out the Get Right Fantasy Network.
check out the Get Right Fantasy Network. You got to get right with the Get Right Fantasy Network.
Best of luck with your podcast. Appreciate the support.
Get you right. Enjoy the show.
And I'm getting down cause I run my sleeves up. And I'm getting right cause I run my sleeves up. And I'm getting down cause I run my sleeves up. And I'm getting right cause I get.
Bro, what's up, boys? I'm so stoked to be back. Mike, good job, man. Crushed it. Crushed it, dude.
Thank you.
I love the intro. Kendall, Mike, boys, welcome to. I haven't done a show in a minute, man. Welcome to the Extra Point. It has been a minute since we got together. I haven't seen y'all boys since the business meeting. We're not going to talk about that. That was a fun one. But stoked, man. Just fucking fired up to be back and having a show. We haven't done this in a while. So for those that are listening, welcome to the Extra Point. Y'all already know what it is. It's your boy, Phil Ruskin, holding it down. I got my guy, Mike, of course, classic Mike, and my guy from the Fantasy Football Tavern, Mr. Kendall Vanderbilt. Hey. We got to talk about Kendall. We haven't talked about this yet. We didn't talk about it pre-show, and we're going to talk about it right now. How fucking good does Mike's beard look? For the longest time, you were the only one in this whole team that didn't have a beard. Like all of us have beards, and it was just you. And now I'm like, bro, you're in the club. Like, welcome to the beard club, bro. You look good, man.
You want to know something really funny? Just
Yes.
started last 2 weeks, just trying to grow it out a little bit, trying to, see what I can do here because I haven't done it yet. It's my first time, and I'm like, you know what, got all the product and all this stuff trying to grow it out.
Oh, you like went for it. You got the beard oil and like, you went for like the starter pack. You got it. Look, this guy's all in, man. He pushed all the chips in the center.
You look like a Viking, man. I love it. I freaking love it.
Yeah, I'm partner.
Yeah. You look like a survivalist.
Oh my god, right? Like this dude should be wearing like camo pants in the woods, like with two sticks, rubbing them together. Like this is how my ancestors made
was going on like a Canadian exploration. Like you're my guy.
Oh my god, I love it. I missed you guys, man. Well, welcome to the show. It is not Thursday night. It is Friday night. We're having a little different take on the Extra Point tonight. We are doing a Friday night special. Man, Get Right Fantasy Network, we got a lot of stuff coming y'all's way here as we get ready for rookie drafts. Obviously, we know we're going to be all summer doing our best ball tournaments. We're going to be doing a ton of stuff through our sponsors and Underdog. As the name implies, we will be getting y'all right for whatever type of format you guys are ready to play, whether that's going to be Dynasty, which is obviously what we talk a lot about here on the Extra Point. As we get closer to the season, Kendall and I will bring back our annual do not draft list, our risers and fallers as we get ready for the redraft season. And then our whole team will obviously be getting you guys into our mock draft tournaments, of course, leading up to the season where we have our Tournament of Champions. And then, of course, as you can see in the top right-hand corner there, we love our boys and our sponsors over at Underdog. Fellas, I got some money needs withdrawing. I'm not going to lie. I've got some cash in that account. So we will always get you guys ready for best ball season with our friends over at Underdog Fantasy. So we're not going to talk rookies tonight. I know that's what probably everybody's getting ready, excited for. I think most people are, we got like 35 days till rookie drafts here coming up, man, right around the corner. So we're not going to talk rookies tonight because we've had a crazy last 10 days. So we're going to jump into free agent frenzy. We got a lot of free agents to go through. We got a lot of impact players that are moving. We got guys that are, well, we're going to talk about it, but there's a lot of guys that I think we need to talk about tonight, and we'll get to as many of these players as we possibly can. We'll talk about some risers and fallers. Before we get into specific guys, Kendall, what was something maybe that surprised you in free agency? Maybe a guy that stayed home or a guy that signed with a new team, but give me just 1 minute on something that you, when you saw a headline or you watched a news clip and you went, ooh, I didn't expect that.
Which one was surprising? I think the Justin Fields move was a little bit interesting. I don't know what I was expecting, but that felt like it came out of left field for me. I thought someone like a team that wasn't ready to win right away might pick him up as a bridge. I thought maybe like the Raiders, maybe even the Giants. As weird as that sounds, I thought that could have made some sense.
Yeah.
Teams that maybe didn't like the quarterback class, and we're just gonna kind of parlay it a little bit with an upside pick anyway, right?
Yeah.
So that one was a little perplexing to me. And then I think that the Cooper Kupp signing was a little bit weird for me as well.
Weird to see.
That was
Yeah.
mine. So I was going to kick it to Mike here, but since you said that, I'm going to jump in real quick, Mike. That was mine. Was the Cooper Kupp signing for two reasons. Number one, in division, and I get it, like it's free agency, so it's not like you traded him, right? But like in division, but it's all exactly. To Eastern Washington, right? But the other piece was just the contract.
Yeah.
Like it was a big contract
it
for
was a good contract.
old receiver who's been injured. So you've got JSN, you paid a lot of money to Sam Darnold. So I'm really curious, like what this offense is going to look like. KW3 is obviously coming back. Charbonnet's coming back. So you've got a solid running back crew. I don't have the list in front of me, but I have to think they're in the middle to the second half of the draft.
I believe so.
So they're probably in the teens? Anyway, probably
they're in
somewhere.
I think they're in the late teens. I'll get it up.
It's Seattle.
I think
that's
every single board has them just kind of filling a defensive hole.
That's what I was thinking too. As a
18.
defensive guy, so you're not grabbing an impact player. You're not grabbing a big time rookie. So, the Cooper Kupp one was really interesting to me. But Mike, I know we're going to get to it at some point tonight with your hometown Giants. But what stood out to you right now?
That's not even my biggest one. Right now, we're still waiting on that, but it's connected to that kind of. I think it's Devontae Adams going to the Rams.
That was an interesting one too.
It was really odd to see because everyone had it ingrained in their head that Rodgers was going to go with him somewhere,
right.
And because the Jets were kind of tiptoeing around everything, waiting, and like they let go of Devontae pretty early and let him do whatever, and then Rodgers they kept until the start of free agency, even though they said we're going to get rid of them or what try. But I think what they were trying to do was try to trade them. I really think that they were really trying to trade Rodgers to get as much as they could for him. Agreed. And then they just waited, and then no one wanted him. So they were like, all right, see you later. And then Adams went his way. And I thought, and then the Stafford situation connected to it with it, because that was the whole thing, waiting for where Stafford would go. It was just really odd once you saw Stafford land and then you saw Devontae land, and it was just like you just let go of Kupp.
Yeah.
Why?
No, I agree. That one was a bit of a head scratcher. I think a lot of people probably had Rodgers and Adams penciled into
somewhere. I thought he was going to go to the Giants. Honestly, I thought they were going to try to package both and bring him to the Giants and, have a good, duo of guys like they kind of did to the Jets. Like same concept, just different rookies at wide receiver. So
you guys think Kupp was the better target? I thought Kupp on a 1-year deal made more sense. I felt like it was going to be a shorter term thing. I thought the sides were going to flip flop in terms of landing spots for those guys a little bit.
To me, what was interesting about Kupp was the fact that it's 3 over 45.
Yeah.
Like that's 15
but remember,
years.
Darnold's
are there more details on that though? Is there anything about like avoidable third year or anything? Like Darnold's contract is obviously significantly different.
Remember, Darnold's
what 110 over 4.
Well, remember it's a 1-year deal, but it can be
he's got like voidable years or something like that.
He has voidable years. Yeah.
I don't know what the Cooper Kupp situation. I'm looking at it right now, but he's 32 years old, so I don't know. Well, we're gonna get into that a little bit later, but I want to start with something that stood out to me because obviously we love talking dynasty on this show. It's really what the show is all about, and so this was really interesting because I think a lot of people maybe haven't connected this, or if they have, we hasn't really talked about it a lot. Rico Dowdle signing with the Panthers. So I know last year we still 1-year deal, but my question to you, Kendall, is this: what do you think that means for that running back room with Jonathan Brooks?
I think it means, hey, we invested heavy in Jonathan Brooks. If it's ever going to work, we're not going to rush it back. And honestly, we're already not feeling good about it. But it's well, we weren't going to win anyways. We weren't going to win any championships next year
Fair.
anyways. Let's take our Arizona Cardinals. Okay, there's no injury there, but Benson's probably still taking a backseat to James Conner, right? It's just an injury thing. I think they're saying, look, it's a developmental year for our tight end, our wide receiver one. We extended Thielen a little bit just to kind of bridge us a little bit so that Bryce has some options, right? And we were giving ourselves we could have gone even cheaper, but we actually went with a guy that we think can be a competent 1-2 punch and actually give us like some competitiveness, right? With a lot of flexibility because it's a 1-year deal, right? So what I do think it does is it gives their offense a chance to actually move the ball a little bit. Like it kills them both, but like I think they'll actually both kind of be reasonably productive. And I think from a dynasty perspective, it's just saying they're not going to play him at all. Like Brooks is just done all of next year.
Oh yeah.
And then the idea is
100%.
in that year, Chuba will be down to a year
1 year left.
1 year left on his deal. Brooks will leave in free agency, or they'll trade him to a contender at some point later on in the year, something along those lines. That's an option. So I think it was a decent deal from the Panthers, but from a dynasty perspective, if we want to get to it later, Rico Dowdle's one of my, if there was any hope for him, his career died overnight.
100%. 100%.
And any shot of it, like it's just, there's no shot at him becoming relevant at all. So he's complete dust. If you own him, it's just you can't sell him at this point. He's someone you just have to hope to get production on, and in case of injury, just keep him. But he's kind of dead in terms of any potential upside that he could have.
So,
had.
Mike, are you on Jonathan Brooks? Are you on the keep, trade, cut side of the house? Where do you land with Brooks and cut? Just straight cut on your dynasty roster. On a dynasty roster, you would cut him.
I'm done with him. I was done with him
after one season. I mean, technically not even a real season.
To be fair, I didn't like him to begin with in the context of where he was going for most dynasty drafts and the type, like just where he was. The way that people were drafting him was like they were drafting Saquon Barkley. And I sat there and I'm like, wait a minute, he's not playing until November, right? And then I kept bringing that up, and then even in redraft, people were drafting him in like the 10th round. And I'm sitting there like, do you guys realize he's not coming back until November? And then he ends up doing what he did at what? It was 2 weeks in. And I wasn't on board. I wasn't impressed in general. Yeah, he was great at Texas, and, good for him. It just, I wasn't on board. I don't want to hold. I'm not going to. There's no trade value for him really, unless you really think that I would try to trade him, but otherwise cut him.
Yeah, I'm unfortunately stuck in a couple leagues with him where I'm just going to have to hold because I can't trade him. There's nothing to do. I'm not going to cut him on the off chance that we all know what's going to happen this fall. Guys get hurt, guys step up. That's just how it goes.
But he's not coming back till 26.
Sure, but at some point, like you're going to have a resurgence with. I mean, there's certain players that just make their way back after all this time. So
I mean, the argument for that is like he's still what? He's not even 23.
No, he's 20. Exactly, he's 22-year-old. Like he's
so
22-year-old kid
like
coming off of 2 ACLs.
4 years from now, he'll be 26.
Yeah,
which is still younger than probably half the starting running backs in the NFL.
But what kind of game experience is he going to have?
And I'm talking, this is after 3 seasons, so this is completely killing this season and next season and giving him a random season. He's still in 26 from like a long term dynasty. If he's reasonably talented, he could move into that like high end backup on a good offense. Maybe he's all right and does something. You know what I mean?
Yeah, but it's like we talk about this all the time. Like you don't have any production, you don't have any numbers. Who's going to draft you? Who's going to take you? Right? Who's going to trade for you? I mean, you can't tell me a guy that's got 2 ACL surgeries, even the fact that he's super young, is going to be someone that other teams are clamoring for, right? Like, oh, let me get this guy. Like, it's just not going to happen.
Think about J.K.
Yeah, fair.
Dobbins is the comp.
Mm-hmm.
Dobbins is the comp.
Mm-hmm. And it's not even the same injuries too, because it was ACL and Achilles for JK. This is the same ACL twice.
Right.
It's leaning in that direction.
It's not good. It's not good, right? But like if you own him, the whole idea is like if we're trying to be as sharp as possible, right? In deeper, like say like start 11 leagues, right? Where all of a sudden it's like, all right, it's triple flex plus 3 wide receivers, full PPR. We know the way to play is going to be wide receiver centric, where it's just how can you have a successful running back strategy?
Yep.
I don't mind the idea of like I still just want to collect. I want to collect lottery tickets. And I like there's two things. One, if you can sell him like immediately, I think he can actually kind of hold like some hidden like name value for like an early third. You're not getting even like the 212 for him, but the fact that some people think thirds are dart throws that are getting thrown away anyways, yeah, I'm gonna take like a real dart throw that could make some sense. And in the year leagues that have an IR spot, say a 10-team league that has IR spots, we know roster clog's a big deal in 10-team. Being able to throw them on your IR spot is legitimately a thing in 10-team to consider. And all you need is a little bit of camp news a year from now, and then capitalize. And again, if you can somehow in the future get late second round value for them, again, it's like a 2-year project. But if you're playing Dynasty for 10 years, the way to like win in the end is to like, if you can turn an almost cut candidate into like the 212 over 2 years by timing, I think this is a play where like you got to kind of make that happen. So you're holding for that.
All right. Well, let's run through some stuff that we can kind of skip over, but just so folks know if you've been missing it. Raheem Mostert signed with the Raiders. I don't care. Najee Harris with the Chargers. I don't really care. Nuke, DeAndre Hopkins to the Ravens. I don't really care about that one either. There's just a lot of players that you look at. Josh Palmer to the Bills, Matt Collins to the Patriots. So, like, these are fine. I don't think these are players, obviously, that should be rostered. They're really not on your teams, but it is good to know where players are going. They're on the move. I think what everybody wants to talk about is going to be the wide receivers, especially the big boy wide receivers that have moved to some new teams. Before we get into the biggest of big wide receiver moves, why don't we start with my guy, Debo. Y'all know I love Debo. It is sad for me to see him go off the Niners. At the end of the day, the majority of the Niners offense ran through Debo. He's very much a staple of that team. Kyle Shanahan loves him and designs plays for him, and he's more of a utility knife than he is a wide receiver. Mike, let me start with you. How do you see his role in Washington, and what's his impact in fantasy this season?
I mean, it's going to be interesting to see how they utilize him. I mean, Cliff Kingsbury can be very creative if he wants to be, and especially with a guy like Jaden Daniels. I definitely think that they can really get him involved, open things up for him a little bit. They did make a couple of big moves this offseason with trying to get Laramie Tunsil as well at left tackle, which is huge for their team. So overall, I think, and they brought back guys like Zach Ertz and John Bates, which I found funny. A lot of people were pissed because Ben Sennett, that guy that we're all waiting for.
We're all waiting.
But I mean, right now, his value is going to be very interesting to see once we get into season. I think a lot of people are going to overreact a little bit because of the landing spot and who he's connected with and so on and so forth. He still has Terry McLaurin to compete with. There's still ways that they can manufacture touches to him in one way or another. But if you really, if you break down the team, you got Brian Robinson still there. You got Austin Eckler still there, who's involved in the passing game.
Yep.
You're going to rotate all those guys out. You still got to feed, you still got to give Zach Ertz a couple, and Terry. So I'm not huge on it. I'm happy for him. I think it's a good place for him to be, and I think it will greatly help the Commanders. Fantasy-wise, he's probably high to mid wide receiver 2.
Okay. Kendall, that kind of leads into what I wanted to know. Do you think he has a wide receiver 2 bounce back season, or do you think we see another season like we've seen in San Francisco this last year where Debo's sadly not someone you can start unless you kind of have to?
Yeah.
Okay, so my answer is heavily predicated on I'm not doing anything yet until the draft, because I think the draft heavily affect that. And in a specific way, though, I mean, I think they could go 2 different directions. Like, they could take a wide receiver earlier than we think, or they could take a running back earlier than we think, because I got
Brian
BTJ
Robinson,
on my mind.
You got BTJ on the line. B-Rob.
We know this. We were just talking about him in the green room beforehand. So I mean, maybe we'll get to that if we have some time later. But I mean, the current regime kind of inherited him. He's all right. He's not a crazy difference maker. If Eckler's going to be gone at some point, I mean, he doesn't fill that third down roll back. He's stable, And I could see the team saying like, hey, we don't really want Jaden to use his legs as much. It would be nice if we had another way to manufacture the ground game in a pretty big way. I don't think they're going to go like big running back, but also this is also a draft where you can like throw a dart throw on day 3 and still end up with like a holy crap, he's really good running back. Like this is the year for it. So, but it's more if they go wide receiver. If they don't go wide receiver at all, and they run it back. You know, Ertz is taking some targets, but I actually think he's going to get a lot of goal line work. I like the offense in general. I think there's a really nice match with Kingsbury, actually. Kingsbury has always wanted to make speedy guys behind the line work. He tried to make Rondale Moore work, right? And I think that's just how his brain works. I don't think he's going to change his mind anytime soon. So if he can just, you know, tidy up the drops a little bit and just get himself together, maybe some of the negative press and him actually just having negative production. He's the type of guy that we know he's dedicated. He's talented when he's on the field. He's physically gifted. If he got himself back to a little better shape, I think they're going to utilize him in a better way. Like the chances that Terry McLaurin has a down year because the ball gets spread around has to be about the same as Debo doing good or bad. It's all a little bit 50-50, but people are pretty down on him in the market. I think I'm above on where people have him projected. Like he's not going to be terrible, but he could be very good. Like there's arguments for like his touchdown rate could be better than Terry McLaurin's because of how he's utilized, right?
Yeah, I mean, look, I think if you're like, obviously as a dynasty show, we try to give you all comps and trades and, you know, trade values. I'm also holding if I have Debo. I'm selling if I can sell, but most likely you're all holding because you're not getting offers for him. I hear Emeka Egbuka's name a lot to Washington. A lot of mocks that I'm seeing is that he's going to drop a couple of spots and Washington's going to snag him. And I think it's interesting, like you said, Kendall, because this is a pretty deep running back class. So to me, it's like, what do you do at 29? You probably take the best player on the board. I would think they'll take somebody on the – I mean, they just signed Laramie Tunsil, so like how much more do you need on the offensive line to protect Jaden? I don't know. They'll have to answer that question. But at the end of the day, you're probably taking the best player available, and I would think it's a defensive player at 29 for Washington. Because they were so close this year to making that run to the Super Bowl. And that's maybe the piece, especially with Dan Quinn being, even though he's the head coach, being a defensive guy. Kingsbury obviously is pretty creative. We've seen him be pretty vanilla, and we've seen him be like freaking Rainbow Sherbert and just blowing shit out the water, man, with crazy play calls you've never even seen. All of a sudden, you're like, fuck did you draw that up from? So
I've always hated him for running backs, right? I feel like he's never felt them out. But to be fair, like he's done decent with wide receivers who weren't even like fantastic. Like I liked what he's done with offenses that shouldn't work, and right now no one can make Kyler work. So
no, Kyler.
How much of it was him? You know,
I've been getting offers for Kyler. People trying to trade Kyler to me, and I'm like, no, I don't. I'm out. I'm good. I've had enough. Me and Mighty Mouse are on a little bit of a break right now. We're gonna
just had him offered up in one of my dynasty leagues right now.
I do see Washington taking at least 2 skill position guys though. Maybe a second, maybe day 2 pick, right? 3rd rounder, 4th rounder, but I think they take at least a receiver and 1 developmental running back in this class.
What would you buy sell for Debo? Like what? Like let me like put your dynasty outlook look on them into like tradable terms if you could.
Early
like
2.
Like if you own him right now, what would you? If you own him in a win now window, do you think you can even like get enough that it would matter? The production on your roster has to be more than what you can get from him, or the upside of what he could get, right?
Problem is, I think you're going to get a 3rd. Yeah, I'd rather have Debo. I'd rather have Debo than the 3rd.
Because you're definitely buying him for a late second, though, right? For sure. At least I would for a late second.
That's the hard part. I mean, I'm thinking your goal is to get to a 2, but I don't think you're ever going to get that. I don't
know what I can turn a late second into. Like he's like a cheap vet production.
What you want to buy Debo for the 210?
Yeah, I think I would. I mean, it would have to be one of those rosters where it's like, look, the 210, I'm probably looking at one of the running backs that I like there because I'm probably wide receiver heavy, and I'm using this draft to just like all my seconds I'm accruing, I'm throwing at that position because I need to, because I'm never going to spend it on an aging vet. I'm not going to buy a running back after the draft. I'm going to draft him, right? But if I'm in a win now window and it's a particular setup where it's like, look, I'm going to take a bunch of running backs anyways, I could see taking Debo for a late second. I could see the regretting in case. I could see
Let's play the game. You ready? Yeah. Here's the game. You guys know the game. Would you rather have, I'm going to start a little bit lower on the list. Would you rather have Elijah Arroyo or Debo?
I'm taking Debo.
Okay. Jaden Higgins, Debo.
Jaden Higgins.
Xavier Restrepo,
I'm going Debo.
Dylan Sampson.
I like Dylan Sampson.
Okay. Ollie Gordon, Trevor Etienne, Isaiah Bond. Bond is the only receiver that I've named so far.
Yeah. So that's kind of what it comes to.
So would you rather have Bond or would you rather have Debo?
I think I would rather have Debo. Yeah.
I'd rather have Debo. Trey Harris, Debo.
Debo.
Okay, so now let's get a little bit higher on here.
You would
now
have
we're
to
getting
go.
now we're getting into true second rounders here. Matthew Golden, fringe first rounder. If it's not super flex, he's a first rounder. Golden.
We're finally getting
Late
into
first.
like I think an NFL upside level where I think I have to take the rookie.
Yeah,
Well,
Golden
you
is where I
already
have
did.
Golden's where I have the line.
So
I would take Debo.
where does that put us at? We're starting to
Well,
take
what
him
about
at
Burton?
the far two.
Well,
right?
but Burden is going to be in the top 5 in single quarterback leagues.
Yeah. There's
He's going to be in the 104.
bad landing
105
spot.
range.
He could fall to the late
You
first.
sure?
But he's
I
not
see
making
him
it
in
first.
I'm looking at a draft now. He got to the 10.
Oh, I'm saying he could get to
Mock?
I think there's a limit though. Like at like the 11 or 12, you just look at the names. You're like, well, he could fall to the
At the
bottom. Of this,
110?
like 4. Yeah.
I'd still rather have Burden.
McMillan went 102. Hunter went 106. Ibaka went 1-9, and then Burden at 10.
But you're not getting a late first for Debo.
Oh no.
So you'd rather have. So you'd rather
I'm
take
just
Burden.
telling you.
The idea was like
where he
you tried to
fell
sell him
on
last
that
year
list.
for a late first if you could.
Yeah.
That was the smart play. And if you couldn't, now it's like, all right.
I mean,
Like in my
draft,
shoes,
still,
I'm like, if I could get a mid-second for him because there was a
That's where the-
believer,
That's where
I
the
would
line is.
I would definitely do that. But
All
like
right, so
I
let's
think
go
there's a
down the
buy
clock.
window. Like I'd buy him for 2/3 to somebody who thought he was toast. I would do that for sure. And if
For
I had
sure
to
you would, but that's what I'm
specifically,
saying is like
yeah.
I'd rather have Debo than 2/3. You got to find the right buyer in that situation. That's a
Yeah.
thin market at that point for someone to see the 2/3 and go. They'd rather have two.
I just don't think
those are
anyone's
true dart
like
throws.
I don't think anyone's considering buying him because everyone's so low on him. But I'm at that
Correct.
he's almost too cheap at this point to take a shot. And because once the draft hits, if they draft a wide receiver, okay, then yeah, I'm probably just done. But
Yeah, I mean, yeah, that makes a big. All right, well, let's talk about another wide receiver because this is what everybody came here for. I know we got a bunch of people on the show tonight. They're all waiting for this one. We've been waiting to talk about it. I can't believe these words are about to come out of my mouth because it's just so weird. But DK Metcalf is no longer in Seattle, which, by the way, as a Niners fan, good fucking riddance. Bye. Get out of my division. Thank you very much. Go play somewhere else. But the Steelers. Kendall, let's start with you. I was shocked. I knew the Steelers would make a move. They've been trying to get Brandon Ayuk for the better part of a year. DK was obviously a big name. I thought maybe Devontae would wind up there with Aaron Rodgers in a package deal to go to Pittsburgh for one season. I thought that could be a real possibility. A lot of people probably had that. That was probably the bet. I should have bet that in Vegas last week. I would have lost, but that was the betting market in Vegas last week. So I think when you look at DK to the Steelers, Kendall, I'll save my comments till the end. I'll let you boys chat about it. What is your first impression of that trade? Or that signing, excuse me.
Don't know how negotiations went down, but they clearly had to get somebody to then get the quarterback they wanted. I do find it odd that I'm hoping they've already had a deal done with Aaron, like behind the scenes for a minute, and they're massaging it or something. Because it seemed like you signed the big name, whoever it was going to be early, and you use that as your push the chips in the middle, bring the right quarterback over at probably a slight discount because you put your money in, and you know you're probably going to try to deal Pickens. They're the team that tends to get rid of wide receivers a year early before they get crazy. They're known to do it. I think they'll do it if they can. If not, he'll get solid production for a year. So like the landing spot, like it initially it feels bad because when you're like the Steelers were a bad offense, so lingering bad vibes from a bad offense, and they haven't solved quarterback, so we're not looking at the Steelers as a good offensive team yet. I do think that DK Metcalf almost feels like he's not super old, but he's old enough that he feels like the old guard of the alpha one wide receivers in the NFL. Does that make sense? I think Tomlin is going to look at him, and I think conversations are probably, look, we need the big boy in the room. You can be that. We have a history of excellence here. We can do that. And I do think they're the type of team that would essentially force feed him, and you can force feed a guy like that with smart offense. For me, it's like, is the offensive coordinator offensive thing happening? Like, it has to be a really good fit, because what if it's a disaster? You can't just throw the ball up right now with how smart defenses can be. So from a dynasty perspective, I think I think his value is going to go down before it goes up. If it's going to get better for him, it's going to be late in the season. They figure something out. But on paper, I can't project him to be this fantasy force, because I just can't project a good offense without figuring out quarterback. And
Mike,
yeah,
you got the horizontal head shake is never a good thing. So
I'm never gonna.
Where are you?
No.
Or is it? I'll just say, like, last thing, it's a better NFL move. I'm full dynasty brain here, so I don't like it. In the real life NFL, I think it's a necessary great move.
Oh, it's
just
a great NFL
fantasy
move, but it is a horrible.
I have to say, I think it's bad for fantasy. But DK wasn't great for him already. To be fair, it wasn't really making sense already. So,
well, he was already in a
wiser faller. He kind of stays almost where he was at for me, which is just he's getting. Other people are passing him up that are in better situations. And you remember when David Montgomery, where we were really feeling good about him for a while, and then he was just like, he's not an RB1 anymore. He's just, the situation is not as good with the Bears or whatever. He feels like a player where it's like, hey, the situation's not good to ever get. But the way we look at Garrett Wilson right now, it's kind of like, dude, we love him. Is the situation ever going to be good enough? And it's like, if Garrett Wilson had a downgrade, we'd be having the same conversation, right? I think that's just what happened to DK. Is he's now going to enter that range of you like him in drafts because you're like, the upside of that caliber. Why is he going in the 7th round? Oh, because he's on the Steelers. And what's the passing volume going to look like?
I think he's going to be a huge discount in redraft this year.
Oh, I
think he's going to be a huge discount in redraft. I think the 7th or 8th round is exactly where you're going to get him, and that's going to be your wide receiver 3. Or if you're in a 2 wide receiver league, that's a flex for you. So that's great. But
people overdraft the rookies this year that are very different than last year. Yeah, that's where guys like DK are going to be crazy value.
I think you're going to see Genty get pretty high up that board, McMillan pretty high up that board. But after that, I mean, we'll see what happens when camp rolls around and landing. We don't even know landing spots yet, but. Mike, for the Steelers, from a dynasty perspective, Kendall kind of alluded to it, and is kind of what I want to talk about a little bit as well. But is DK a riser? Is he a faller? Is he just kind of neutral in your mind?
Horrible faller.
Faller. Okay, so you have him as a faller. Okay.
Oh yeah. I mean, honestly, it's basically for him. He's going from a team that was incredibly pass happy to a team that is not pass happy. They have been historically bad, and especially with Arthur Smith coming in and being the OC. Arthur Smith, for the last 3 years, has had a passing offense being under 25, 25th in the league. He's always in the top 5 when it comes to rushing. Yep. He's 3rd and 5th when it came to rushing. And, now Najee's gone, which is another fun thing that I, really like. But now you're going to an offense like that. They're also trying to sign a guy like Russell Wilson. Or hopefully, to be fair, if Rodgers goes there, I'm a little bit higher on him, but not much. Probably like what Kendall said, around the same. Just because, Rodgers will throw the ball a little bit more, but he's more of a check down now. But Russ is the same way. So if you're getting one of the 2 guys, they all like to pass to the running back. So Jalen Warren, woohoo! Yep. But DK Metcalf, honestly, I don't want anything to do with him. Let's use George Pickens as who DK is going to be next year. He was wide receiver 42, and he only missed 3 games.
I know.
And he was 32nd in targets with 103. Yep. So, yep. That's roughly what his season will be.
I think you have to take DK. I've been thinking about this for a while, actually. I think you have to take DK and you have to put his floor significantly lower. And I think this is the first time in his career that you can.
You used to count on 10 touchdowns, or at least 8. Like
8. No I think you're looking at 750 and 5.
That's actually pretty fair.
That's probably his ceiling. 750 and 5 in that offense. And that is fine wide receiver 3 production.
Oh, yeah.
That's fine for the 7th round, the 8th round. But in a dynasty format,
he definitely has low end wide receiver 1 if like for a game.
Not in this offense.
I'm saying for like a game.
Oh, to get you into the top 10 for a week, sure. But anybody can get you in the top 10. I mean, like,
you know what I think his season's going to be like, to be honest? Tell me this isn't like a very accurate comp of where I think he's probably going to finish, but maybe a little bit better. Rome O'Dunes this past season. He caught a couple touchdowns. What was it, 6 or 7 touchdowns? About 700 yards.
Rome?
Yeah. Rome, he had a decent season when it looks like it was okay.
3 touchdowns.
It was only 3?
734 and 3.
Okay, so I know the 734 was pretty close. Sprinkle on an extra three for DK. But I think that's what it's going to feel like. It's going to feel like, hey, he's really good. Oh, this offense just doesn't have enough volume, does it?
So we were talking about this pre-show. Now, granted, what I'm about to say is a best ball format, so it's obviously a little bit different. But I am trading or trying to trade for Jamar Chase right now for the obvious reasons, right? Best wide receiver in the league. The ceiling is through the roof. At the end of the day, you guys know this. You guys play in a lot of leagues with me, and this is how I always construct my team, is super wide receiver heavy because I'm chasing that volume and that upside, and I want those touchdowns. I don't see where DK gets to double-digit touchdowns because the Steelers don't score enough touchdowns. So if we're saying we don't even think he can get to double-digit touchdowns, you've got George Pickens, you've got Jalen Warren, whoever else they're going to bring in and sign and or draft.
And Fergie.
I mean, there's just not you still have Freiermuth there. So like, there's just not enough volume. Ferg's in Dallas. So there's just not enough for me to say like, he's going to get there. I have to see the path. I know the talent is there. He's always been talented. The minute that he walked into the interview with the Seahawks with his shirt off, and you were like, dude, this guy should be this guy's a Greek god. Like, we freaking get it. You're an unbelievable.
He eats candy.
I know his diet is like coffee, candy, and eats like one meal a day. And I'm like, well, I don't. If I did that, I'd be fat. What the hell's wrong with this guy?
I had diabetes.
Yeah, no shit. But my point being is like, I can always project based off of talent for a guy to get there. You guys know me pretty well. I'm a numbers guy. I have to see the path mathematically for me to invest my pick or to invest a trade into a player. 100%. And I'm not doing that with DK because I can't mathematically see the path in this offense to say I see 1,000 yards and 8 touchdowns as a reasonable outcomes, ceiling or mid-floor outcome for you. I can't see it. So I'm out on DK. I think if you can trade him. And I did, actually. I traded him in a league at the end of the season. I got a first for him. I got the 108.
I mean,
I'm feeling really good about that.
Some people are always going to see a path where something like every year when you do your risers and fallers column, like how many are in each, right? Your risers are always 2 to 3 times longer than your fallers because we're players that can always find a positive case, but it's so hard to bury somebody forever when you know how talented they could be in a right situation. There will be a buyer for DK for sure in almost every league for at least reasonable value. And I think it insulates it. Like, just lock in some value, because it's not like there's no upside scenario too. There's no like 5% chance he just like goes crazy, because there's a 0% chance that offense does that unless they draft one of the rookies and the rookie quarterbacks are somehow really good. And that's a lot of this.
I mean, look, Rafi, we love you, buddy. We know you're always here, big supporter of the show. We appreciate you being here, man. Rafi's comment, Arthur Smith's offense not known for putting up big numbers at the wide receiver position. Nope. I mean, unless your last name is Ward and you're getting the ball thrown to you by Roethlisberger,
you're not getting
nobody coming out of Pittsburgh with big numbers. So
you want to know the numbers? It's quite scary.
No.
29th overall to the wide receiver. Just throwing to the wide receiver, 29th.
And for those playing the home game, there's only 32 teams in the league. So 29, not so good.
So good.
Let's switch gears, boys. We got about 15 minutes left in the show here. Let's talk about, speaking of guys who are throwing the football. Mike, some news out of your city today. Mr. Jameis Winston, everyone's favorite soundbite, has decided that he will take his talents to the Big Apple.
Mm-hmm.
Let's start with, what does this mean for the Giants organization in terms of what they do next in terms of bringing somebody in, or does it impact them at all?
I don't think it impacts anything. One, I just wanted to say it came in while we were talking. George Foreman died. Sad.
Oh, that is sad.
Just had to bring that up.
Yeah.
Sad day. But from the reports that I keep reading, Garofalo already came out and said, even though they just grabbed Jameis, it doesn't mean that Rodgers isn't in the cards still and able to be a part of this. Joe Shane has been saying it over and over again that we want to bring in multiple quarterbacks. So I don't see this as just the end. Like, I don't see Jameis as just being, well, no. I think they're going to bring in somebody else. They're still going to bring, I know they're going to still continue to try to get Rodgers, and I'm okay with that. A lot of my Giants friends, my dad, my brother, they're not big fans of it. They don't like the whole Aaron Rodgers drama, the way he is, the way that he makes things go. Now, I have changed my perspective on Aaron Rodgers. If you actually take a look at his doc that he came out with, Enigma, I was very skeptical of it. I was not a big fan of Rodgers prior to all this. I've gotten to watch it. It's changed my opinion on him a little bit. It makes you see through his eyes, even though if he wants to be positive with it. Yeah, my brother keeps arguing, well, he can spin it the way that he wants. Well, that's true, but
True. Very true.
Even if he's spinning it the way that he wants, you get to see the person that he is through that particular conversation and, just how he interacts. So after watching it, you got to see the type of person he is. He's hyper competitive. He's looking out for his mental health. He rose real quick and, got to what he wanted to. And then it was just really, what do I do from here? And then he just kept trying. And every year, you saw how, we've all seen his career, always trying to get there, but always missed it, always by that last second, but consistently there. So now he's at that point in his life that he's very popular. Everyone knows him and blah, 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 blah. Now he's just trying to mentally get himself ready for the particular season to come before camps and all that. And he said it multiple times in the show. Yeah, his situation in Green Bay sucked when they brought in Jordan Love, but he was willing to willing to do the training with Love, teach him what he can, try to, that's what he was there for, to, instill the knowledge and then, go from there. And then when he got to the Jets, he wanted to be competitive. And then, of course, he fell flat on his face. So now he's trying to build that back up because that year prior, he had a fucking MVP season. He was on the list of MVP. Yeah. And, he doesn't think he's done yet. And even with the injury, he doesn't think he's done yet. He can still throw the ball. He contributed to 2 wide receivers being over 1,000 yards. He can still throw the ball. It's just, not as good as he used to.
Yeah. It's just go ahead, finish your take.
No, I'm not against the Giants going after him. Jameis coming over to the Giants is great. For me, that feels great. It's better than like saying that we got Drew Lock. Like when we got Drew Lock last year as a backup, I'm like, Jameis, I feel a little better about. If something happens, I feel a lot better about it.
Jameis and Joe Flacco are the 2 most rostered non-starting quarterbacks in the NFL. And if you don't have Joe Flacco or you don't have Jameis Winston on your roster, go check your fucking waiver wire because they're probably sitting there and you should just sign them right now because they will play football at some point. You know what though, Mike? At least you didn't sign Mac Jones.
Oh, you want to know something really funny?
Please don't let it be funny about Mac Jones because I'm not going to laugh.
No. I want it.
You wanted Mac Jones?
I wanted Mac Jones. And you want to know why? One, he had a connection with Dable back in Alabama. That's fine. He also did pretty well considering with the guy we were talking about before, Brian Thomas Jr. We were all talking about it. And to be fair, he did a little bit better than what Trevor Lawrence did with him. And he showed a lot of promise last year being able to deal with a guy like him. Now you get to go to his teammate that is just as good, if not around the same talent level, and you're going to go throw to him. Sure, I would have been all for it. Yeah. I had no problem with it.
I just, Ross and I talked about it. Like the Niners are just, I don't know what we're doing.
I had no idea what you guys did.
Fire sale right now. Like it's like 50% off at the big and tall. Everything must go. I'm like, what are we doing, guys? Like, you have to actually put 11 players on the field to participate in a football game.
100%.
Right now, I don't think we have 11 guys in the locker room. So forget actually playing the season. So we'll get there. Kendall, let's talk about the 103 in the real draft, which is the Giants pick. I've seen Shedeur. No. I've seen the Giants trading up to get Cam Ward.
No.
I've seen Travis Hunter. I've seen offensive tackles. Like, do you think the Jameis Winston signing signals that they are taking Shedeur?
Okay, I don't think it's likely in terms of all the outcomes. I'll like lightly bang the drum that I think it is more likely than where the market's at. I think there's a connection between Shador is a big brand. It's a major market. It could make a lot of sense if you have to do something, and every quarterback is a little bit of a it's a gamble anyways. If you have to gamble, that's a decent gamble. There's enough behind him that a lot of people are invested in making it work and it working for his employer, right? So there's that. And I think the Mora family that owns the Giants, I think that's a move I could see them making potentially. I think the most likely is Travis Hunter. I think that's kind of like you just don't know when the next time something like that could come around potentially. And I could see them valuing that to a pretty ridiculous degree potentially. But
I'd rather have Carter.
I think I don't know. I could see it happening. I think
gets past the Browns.
I think the most likely thing, if I'm being, I actually think a trade down and having them take a shot at someone else in conjunction with Jameis. That's what the Jameis signing indicates the most to me. I think a lot of teams looked at what the Steelers did this past season and said, hey, that actually worked out a little bit better than expected. And it also did reasonable. It was all like a training academy. Like they were able to sell Justin Fields for that kind of. It wasn't, you know what I mean?
What's interesting would be, to your point, Rafi just put this in as well. I'll just read this comment real quick. Long shot prediction: Giants take Hunter and then trade back up for Sanders. Sure.
No. Please.
I don't see it. I don't see it either. But sure, like why not?
They could see Travis Hunter as can't miss, but they could see. And like, what if Shador falls? Then they could say, hey, at this point, we'll pick up the phone, but we're not doing it this early.
What I do think is interesting though about what you just said, Kendall, is this: if the Giants traded down, I think at that point, you're looking, assuming you take a quarterback, you're looking at Quinn Ewers, you're looking at Jackson Dart.
I think Jackson Dart in particular.
Jackson Dart's probably
Jalen Hurts has beat the absolute crap out of you, and I think they, it's not.
But I think that probably, and hear me out on this, if the Giants trade down, I think that means they have Jameis penciled in as their starter. Because if you're trading down, you're not getting a high level caliber core. If you're passing on Shador, let's say the Giants are on the board at the 3. Right, and they don't take him. What you're then saying is, we believe we have a better option to go and draft another player, meaning that we don't think there's a quarterback that can compete with James. So you can't tell me you think Jackson Dart's going to be the starter over Jameis Winston in September.
So here's my thing. And so this is all your thought process is all based off of if it's just Jameson. Or just Jameis? Like if it's
I mean, as of today, on March 20, so I'm saying March 21st, there is nobody else there. It's just Jameis Winston right now.
True. I'm thinking hypothetically if we were to get So either way, if Jameis is the only one on the roster and going that way, I agree with you. I think the problem is how low would you go to feel comfortable getting Dart?
I don't think Dart's a first round player. I think Dart's going to be an early day 2 pick.
But I agree to a point. Every mock that I've seen prior has him in the end of the first round where the Steelers are, because Steelers are in the same scenario we are. If you really think about it,
Kenny Pickett 2.0.
True, but I do think that Dart has a little bit more upside, and the way that just his particular brand and how he is and how he plays, just it's a little bit more of a step up than Kenny Pickett, in my opinion.
I agree with that.
Yeah.
I just think, like, here's my thought process on, I'm going to come back to the Giants for a second.
Mm-hmm.
I think they're taking a quarterback. And I think they're taking the Giants. I think they're taking a quarterback. I think they're going to take Shador. And I think they're going to, and here's why. Here's my thought process. Because they embarrassed themselves on Hard Knocks last year, where the 12-year-old in an office saying you should trade up for Jaden Daniels. And then what happened? Jaden Daniels not only took a first-year rookie quarterback, he almost took him to the fucking Super Bowl.
But Jaden Daniels is nowhere. If you put Shador Sanders in last year's draft, where would he go?
No, I'm not saying that he's anywhere close to him. Where would he go? Probably in the second round.
So why the fuck are we aiming for him at 103?
Because this is the NFL. This is the league of overcompensation. This is exactly what happens here.
But
Look at all these quarterbacks. Why are we talking about Aaron Rodgers at 42 years old still being relevant in this league?
If they do it,
why are we
do you see
talking
them
about
as a
Matt
trade down, or-
Stafford
Well, no, Stafford's
being relevant in this?
Stafford's
a quarterback, but he's got 1-2 years tops left. Like, we're talking about guys that are continuous. Like, look at the coaches in the NFL. They continuously get recycled. Look at the quarterbacks. They continuously get recycled and continuously get jobs year after year, after injury, after bad seasons, all this regression. And at the end of the day, this is a quarterback-starved league. So if you can go out and get Shador, to your point, Kendall, and sell tickets and get Prime in the Big Apple and eventually get to a point where you think he's the guy. And no, Mike, I mean, I know this isn't what you want because you don't think he's good, but like, I'm telling you, like,
it's not even that. It's I've said it before. It's like spending $100 on a piece of bubble gum. It's like going to the store, giving the cashier $100 and saying bye, and
this
walking
is the
away.
NFL. They just gave Tua Tagovailoa more money than Patrick Mahomes.
It is a bubble gum that's going to make him a lot of money for a little bit, though.
But that's the whole thing here.
Like it's like buying an NFT maybe or something. You know, it's not going to. If you have it too long, bad things are going to happen. But in the short term, it's going to be kind of fun.
It's just he's not. I think that you sacrifice a lot of future. Like anything with the Giants' future, with going with him at 103.
Okay, I need to know how
and I
much...
think, honestly, I think the Raiders are going to try to trade up from 3 to 6, or 6 to 3.
6 to 3. I could see that happening too. Tom Brady's involved in that decision process, and
go enjoy. I'd be
yeah.
fine with it. The only way I will not be okay with that is if Carter is still on the board.
Can we get a live stream rant? I need to see your face when they draft him.
I want to see that too. Actually, I'm not gonna lie. We may have to FaceTime that one because
there's no way I'm not.
Could you imagine? Could you imagine sitting with Falcons fans last year when Michael Penix's name was announced? I bet people broke their TVs. I bet they were throwing shit at their TVs.
I would have bought him a lot of drinks. And we would have had hell of a night.
We probably would have. All right, boys, we are right on that time. Kendall, 2 minutes. Give me one player, dynasty perspective, regardless of format, that you are very excited about as a riser based off of free agency this season, this offseason.
Give me a position.
Running back, Mike, which means Mike, you're getting the receiver.
Okay. Running back.
Running back. Riser. Dynasty.
Isaac Guerrero. I am very excited about Isaac Guerrero. I liked him in the draft process. Great size and speed combination. He was good, but he was good quick. He got thrown into a game and he was very good ripping off a long play. The fact that that's even like a thing that he did that fast. Just all the signs are there. Mason gone. Christian McCaffrey definitely could get injured. It could be the long-term thing where by week 3, Christian McCaffrey could be done indefinitely, and Isaac Guerrero could be a top 10 fantasy running back by end of year. That could absolutely be a case scenario. Or it could just be a situation where, honestly, I think the more likelihood is their only chance at going deep is to save McCaffrey for whatever's left of a potential run. That's your outlier outcome, but it's definitely the only shot you have. I could see them being nearly 60-40 as almost a dead even timeshare just to keep McCaffrey a little bit fresh. And honestly, at this point in McCaffrey's career, he's still the guy, but Guerrero is no slouch when it comes to him spelling him. And Guerrero with fresh legs, he could do a little bit what Khalil Herbert did a little bit for the Bears when he came on. He was ripping off long runs, doing some things, and he's an okay pass catcher, which I actually didn't think was going to be a big skill set for him, and I was more impressed by that than I thought. I'm very excited. I am trading for him. If I can get flip an early third for him, I'm doing it. If I got the 302, 303, where it's got that early pick appeal, I'm doing that for Guerrero all day. I like him over what I'm getting in the late second round in terms of running backs this year. That's kind of where I value him at. And his runway, it exists already. We don't even need to articulate it. It's clear that we can see where it's going to go.
I have to do this. We said it many times on this show. You guys heard me say it. If Isaac Guerrero is healthy, there is a trade market that exists for Jordan Mason to be sent away from the 49ers. And as soon as that trade happened, I put it in the group chat and texted Joe. I was like, I fucking told you that would happen because it makes the most sense. There was an opportunity for Mason to go. there's still some value and some tread on those tires. So I'm with you, Kendall. I am very high on Garendo. I've always been. Kendall, you and I done a lot of rookie stuff together. I was high on Garendo last year coming out. He was one of those guys. I said, do not let this guy get to your waiver wire. Draft him in the 3rd round with your 3rd round, with, your last pick. Mike, give us a wide receiver, riser or faller, not DK Metcalf, since we talked about him for a couple minutes. Give us a wide receiver that has stood out in this process, riser or faller. 2 minutes for free agency.
I mean, one guy. I mean, another guy from that, George Pickens, that definitely falls, but I'm not going to talk about him. What about Khalil Shakir? Let's go with him.
Good one.
Signing a multi-year deal with the Bills.
Yep.
Now seems to be the one guy. They're not re-signing Amari Cooper. They still have Keon Coleman that's there, but they clearly they clearly like Shakir and want him more involved. They got to bring up their passing a little bit. They've always been, they've leaned more to a run-heavy offense. But right now, I think they can get him a little bit more involved. And, I see him being a little bit more of a riser in this group. I've been looking at all the other teams trying to find somebody, and he's the only one that I think that really benefited, through the offseason.
Yeah. I'm going to take the easy way out. I'm going to take the really easy way out on this question.
Jason Higgins.
It's T. Higgins. And then the reason why it's T. Higgins is because of Joe Burrow.
Yeah, fair enough.
Right? Like everyone knew Jamar Chase would get the bag. Everyone knew he was going to be the number 1 guy. I did not, and you guys have heard me say this many times, I didn't think they would have the ability to bring Higgins back. I thought for sure Higgins would be the number 1 most sought after free agent in this market, in this class. We talked about this all fall. Of could he go to LA? Could he wind up in if Tyreek goes, could he wind up as the guy in Miami? Like, what if T. Higgins, ends up somehow getting a free agent deal in Baltimore, right? Like there was all these different, what if he's the number 2 across from CeeDee Lamb in Dallas? So I think if you are I think what the Bengals did from an NFL perspective, dumbest fucking thing I've seen that team do in the longest time. You have no money left. You have no players. I have no idea who you're going to pay. You're going to be having tryouts because you paid all of your money into 3 guys. Fine. Most of it. So I think from an NFL perspective,
29 cap space.
Wow. But you got to get 22 guys on the field. Closest they're ever going to get may have already happened.
I mean, do you look at this as like, what if the adults in the room said, look, we're kind of screwed either way. We won't be able to get to a Super Bowl winning level by piecing this together any other way. We have to take the 7-8% shot and just go in on these guys. We know this is bad. So what, we're going to be the Panthers or something in a year or two or what, except not with the quarterback situation.
Not with quarterback.
But we should take our shot right now because we're getting fired anyways in a couple years unless we win a Super Bowl. Then we get to keep our jobs while we rebuild for a couple years. Let's just do it.
How many games did they have within one? Like where they were pretty much just about to win?
Like 6. I think the Bengals sat in the room and they said, we're going to be this year's 2025, 2026 Detroit Lions. We have absolutely no defense. Our offense is our defense. You score 50, we're going to score 52.
Yeah.
They'll sell tickets.
The Lions had better defense, and then they got decimated by injuries. So that's what happened.
I was just facilities
if they sell enough tickets.
But from a fantasy perspective, this is the absolute best possible scenario that you can wind up with. I am trading right now for T. Higgins where I can get him because of Joe Burrow. You're not going to get Jamar Chase for anything less than top dollar and a massive overpay because he's wide receiver 1. And obviously his ceiling is wide receiver 1. His floor is wide receiver 3.
Yeah.
4, right? Obviously injury, we understand. But my point being is that this is one of very few teams, very few offenses in the NFL that we have seen on multiple occasions a quarterback support 2 high-end wide receivers, both 100%. Of whom, obviously one of them that can finish is the overall wide receiver 1, but one that can finish inside the top 12, even with Jamar Chase across from him. So I'm excited about T. Higgins. I think I've always thought he's a good player. I've never really thought he can be a 1 on his own, a super high level 1. I don't think he needs to be. I think he is still where he has been in terms of he's the best from the Devonta Smith, Jalen Waddle, T. Higgins, those kind of 1B receivers on big offenses. He's, to me, he's a guy I'd rather have. Here you go. Let's play the game. T. Higgins or either one of the Steelers receivers. Higgins or Metcalf, Pickens. But that's my point. That's my point. Is you're taking him. T.
T.
Higgins.
Higgins.
T. Higgins.
Right. But like,
It's
so
because-
so I was going to say, what's the trade strategy for you? Because I feel like Phil, you're at a place where we know that one of the optimal trade strategies is find a player that your take is so strong on that you're willing to at least pay market price, but you're willing to go 15-20% over because your take just has him that strong.
Yeah.
What's your trade strategy to acquire him? Because you're
I'm doing
probably
something
willing to
I
go
don't-
pretty far.
I'm doing something I don't normally do. I'm taking a little bit different approach with him right now. I'm just straight up buying him for a mid to late first.
Do you think you can get him for that price, considering the news does kind of have him steamed up a little bit? Are you getting a lot of bites on it?
I have one right now that I'm.
Or isn't
working
that person are you getting countered for like adding at least
the
a second?
problem is, you know how some of these leagues go. I have the 101 in a couple leagues, and the guys are like, "Well, let me get that 101." I'm like, this isn't fucking candy, guys. I'm not just handing out free chips. Like, what are y'all doing? So, I think right now, you and I have always talked about this, Kendall and Mike. We've had this conversation many times. Like, our advice to all the listeners on the show right now is always package, right? Because if you go and you just make an offer for a single player, obviously everybody knows your trade target is, and you're obviously going to get a counter offer of a higher price because somebody wants to get top dollar in return. It's not rocket science. It's sales 101. So we always say package it, right? I want T. Higgins and I want Javonte Williams and I'm just making up players. But like, I want to put this package together with these picks, and ultimately the prize that I'm really after is Higgins. I think people understand what the news means with with Higgins being attached to Joe Burrow. I have these last couple of years of rookie drafts, I have always thought the same thing. If I'm not getting one of the premium guys, and I do think there are 3, maybe 4 premium players in every draft, then I'd rather take the shot with the mid to late first to go buy a commodity or package a late first and a mid second to go and just buy the guy that I've seen the production from, that I know, that I trust, with a quarterback and an offense that I believe in, versus taking the shot. Could I be wrong? Of course I could be wrong. But let me ask you this, Kendall, as a Bears fan. Would you rather have Rome or T. Higgins?
Rome or T. Higgins.
Right now, today.
Right now, today, I
Would you rather have Rome or Higgins?
Rome is moving up my board so much that this is actually getting quite close. But right now, it would be T. Higgins.
Right. But Rome was the 103 last year in single quarterback drafts, right? It was Marv, it was Neighbors, and then it was Rome. And we all love Rome. I love Rome. We've got everyone in this podcast has shares of Rome in their team, right?
So
do
you have rankings on them yet, or
no? I haven't gone that far yet, but
yeah, because this is a really close game.
I'm a little behind this season on some of my stuff.
But I mean, like the way I'm looking at it, right? If we just use like a Fantasy Pros as a pretty accurate ECR, because like they're tracking the market in more efficient ways than anybody else with enough people, right? They've got T at a dynasty wide receiver 15, right?
Okay.
The next, just look at the next in tier 3. Listen to the rest of tier. He's basically the bottom of tier 3. Marv, Ladd, Wilson, JSN. That gets you up to 11. Like one, I'm like, wow, that's getting in some rare air. Right. But then I almost going to get your take. When I look at the guys below him, I'm trying to figure out, would I tier down plus and try to charge a luxury tax on a tier down in a player I believe in, right? Or do I try to tier up because I believe in it so much? The guys below him, Rashee Rice, Zay Flowers, Devonta Smith, Tet, Rome, Addison.
See, I don't want to have this conversation because we're going to get ready to wrap the show, but we should have this in the next couple of weeks. Zay Flowers is mispriced right now. Zay Flowers is a big trade for target in my mind right now, and he's mispriced.
Why?
I think he should be higher than where people are ranking him. I think it's name value. I think Garrett Wilson is still getting ranked based off of name value. I don't doubt the talent of Garrett Wilson, but the production.
Well, it's going to go down with Justin Fields.
Well, that's my point. So it's like
and why would Zay Flowers go up?
Because they have not brought anybody in. Zay Flowers had a great season.
Brought in Hopkins.
We're going to make an episode of it, man. Let's do it.
Hopkins doesn't. We just, but they were all there this last season. They didn't bring in somebody.
Trade and looks. We should do this. We have enough.
They didn't. Here's my point. In Zay, I don't think that the Ravens brought in any significant competition other than what they already had in the room. DeAndre Hopkins to me is not significant competition. If DeAndre Hopkins couldn't make an impact on the Chiefs with supposedly the greatest quarterback of all time throwing him the ball, how in the world is he going to make a huge impact in Baltimore with Derek frickin' Henry back there and an established with Isaiah Likely, who we love, with Bateman, who, if he can stay healthy, has shown some flashes, and then with Zay and Mark Andrews? Everyone's still poo-pooing Mark Andrews.
Oh, I'm not. No, he was in my equation. You just.
I
cut
like
me off
Zay as a
early.
trade for target. Actually,
I like Zay, and I'm telling you, he's mispriced. I'm thinking anyway. We'll have a whole other show on that. We're gonna wrap the show there,
Addison
but
plus a second. Terry.
Let's say
plus a
Bateman
second,
and outscored
third.
him.
Yeah,
there's.
I
All
like
right.
this.
T.
You got me
Higgins.
steamed up on T. You got me to the point where I was like,
Oh no, say beat him by.
I want to know.
You know when I get my player takes hot and heavy, we get
Lad, Marv,
we get into it.
T. Like, where rank those three for me?
Lad, Marv, T.
And then I have a take no matter what you say.
Lad, Marv, T. I have to keep it in that order for the simple reason. Dynasty or redraft? Dynasty.
Using age.
Marv.
Don't stretch yourself too much. How close is
It's
it?
Marv, Lad, T. It's close. That's why it took me so long. Here's the reason why Higgins isn't number one of that three, because he's not the number one on his own team, and Marv and Lad can and should be and will be. That's that's my.
We clearly have T above Rasheed, Devonta Smith, that type of like he is the most elite wide receiver too. We put him in wide receiver 1. My whole point was when you thought Lad, Marv, you had to think about it for a second, and the fact that T is in that like, oh, that's kind of rare air actually, right? Like, yeah, we're kind of there with him.
Can I make
but
one?
That's
out of those three.
Yeah,
and Dynasty.
Yeah,
CD, Lad, Higgins.
It's that order. It's CD's still an elite talent. I understand quarterback play is poor and it is what it is, but you don't think CD's elite talent?
Oh no. Him himself is.
Yeah,
CeeDee Lamb still has the number one.
No.
This ain't one or two most receiving yards.
Think about what just happened with the Cowboys, and think about their current situation. Think about it.
They have no running backs again for the umpteenth year.
Javonte Williams, and but I like Javonte Williams. Anyway,
he was even with Cooper Rush in the field though. He's still wide receiver 1, and for me that's like that's pretty rare air.
Their offensive line is going to be in the bottom, at least the bottom 20. They have no one else to complement him other than Jake Ferguson.
So his floor is Nico.
No,
CJ was terrible.
No,
CJ was terrible. The Cowboys. The Cowboys is a gigantic.
I'm saying
roll
CD,
of the old
CD is much
dice.
better than Nico, right? He's just a better wide receiver. He's a different class of talent, or we think they're closer.
Nico's a different talent.
You have Nico ahead of CD Lamb.
Like in like talent, like forget situation, but like you're drafting a team to go play in the yard.
That's
like
spicy.
for me, like CD Lamb is like a different animal compared.
I
to
think
Nico.
CD Lamb's going to have a rough year, even if he is hyper targeted by Dak. Teams aren't going to let that happen over and over and over again.
Can you stop it?
Yeah.
What's the lowest a Dak wide receivers ever finished though? The Dak.
See,
with a full.
I would still have CD in my easily in my top 6 easily.
But you remember in those years that he had guys like Amari Cooper and other guys supporting him, like being a second. They don't have anybody right now. Nobody
now.
Let's say I agree with you. I could slide CD. Like I could give a case for ASB, Neighbors, Puka, BTJ, but I can't at Nico and AJ Brown say like those guys will definitely like be better. Like I can't get CD outside of my top 8, I guess. And for me, that still keeps him in like an elite tier of like too good.
The only reason I have CD ahead of BTJ right now is because we've seen it more consistently. We had one great season for BTJ. Do I think BTJ will overtake CD? Yes. Do I think the talent is there? 100%. Even with, and the quarterback play could be what it is because Trevor is Trevor and Dak is Dak, right? But at the end of the day, side by side, who's the more productive player? CD. Like I would put Puka,
Nico had a full
and Amon-Ra both ahead of CD.
Okay.
I'm literally looking at keep trade cut right now. They don't have the market doesn't have it that way. They have CD at wide receiver 4. I don't always agree. We've said a million times on the show, KTC is a great barometer. Use it as a price check, but don't use it as the fucking Bible. It's not the gospel, right?
Not at all.
So I can't, to your point, Kendall, I can't put Nico, Drake London, AJ Brown ahead of CD. I can make the case to put Amon-Ra, and I can make the case to put Puka easily.
Now,
but I can't slide him any further than that.
6 games into the season, the offense was bad and worse than we thought, I will then have to do the PSA. Okay, it hit an outcome that I wasn't prepared to bet on even a little bit, but I will reassess at that point. I just couldn't in terms of preseason rankings.
But you can go to the roulette table and you can bet red or black all day, and then all of a sudden it hits green 00, and you're like, what the fuck? Like, that's not supposed to happen. I mean, like, yeah, but that's why we do this. So,
Mike, I want you to buy CeeDee Lamb and sell them for a profit and see what you.
Lots and lots of content coming y'all's way. We are going to wrap the show. We are at an hour 10. I like to keep my shows to. I know we could do this all night, but I like to keep my shows to an hour. So, first of all, Kendall, obviously thanks for being here, but tell folks where they can find you from your social channels and obviously the Fantasy Football Tavern.
Yeah, coming out of the hiatus, so hopefully new content coming in 2 weeks, I think. We'll see if I can get it a little sooner, but come check me out over at the Fantasy Football Tavern on YouTube. Me and Phil do a lot of Dynasty content, so there's going to be lots of market watch players to draft for. Hopefully there should be lots of interesting players that are more in the affordable bracket, players that you might want to take a look at for seconds and thirds. That's affordable. We can gain a little bit of an edge, and so I'm really looking forward to delving into the Dynasty. They've already been drafted year 2 and 3 sleepers and breakouts. So come check us out.
Love it. Appreciate it, man. As always, absolutely love having you guys here. Mike, what am I doing with our layout? There we go. Sorry, it's been a minute.
I'm letting you out. Yeah.
You just let me click buttons over here like a fool, man. Mike, why don't you tell the people what we've got going on this summer and this spring, and then this summer as we get ready for more content coming from the Get Right Fantasy Network.
So I'll switch it. Oh, there you go.
You shouldn't have let me produce. I told you not to let me produce.
I was trying
to. Let me host. Let me
kind of went away.
Stay in my lane.
So we're gonna have these two wonderful gentlemen doing a lot of our Dynasty content, getting us out there in during this time of year, and then shortly after that, right after the draft, we're gonna start doing our mock drafts again and getting us on a Friday night mocks and getting that back up and running right after the draft so that we can get, we'll do a little bit of mostly Dynasty to start and then Dynasty startup. Then we're going to go into redraft and get into redraft season. We're also going to have Scott Fishbowl at one point in June and going, that route. And then we're going to have our Tournament of Champions, as always, with the mock draft of champions. And we're going to have our buddy here, Kendall, helping us out with that as well. So it's going to be a real fun off season. Really excited to see all that we, see all the content that we're going to, come out with and, continue to do. So
right on. Well, we appreciate it. Thanks for being here on a Friday night, hanging out with us, holding it down here. As always, thanks for joining another episode of The Extra Point. Again, your host, Phil Ruskin. If you all are not subscribed, links are in the chat. Go ahead and jump over. We super appreciate you guys being here, but obviously the likes and subscribes help us grow our brand. Check us out on Spotify. Check us out on Twitter, and you can follow all of us individually. But for everybody at the Get Right Fantasy Network, appreciate y'all being here. Mike, I'm going to let you get us on the outro so I don't screw it up and hit that wrong button, but we will be back. Actually, no. Y'all boys know where I'm at next week. I never saw a snowboard trip I couldn't go on. So I will not be here next week, but we'll be back soon. We'll
talk about all your favorite players. We'll give all of our bad takes right before you give your positive takes.
I'll put all my stuff in the show doc, and you'd be like, Phil hates CeeDee Lamb. He hates T. Higgins.
You got some time up in the ski lift. You get pop in the chat a little bit.
That's right. That's right. That's it. All right. Well, appreciate y'all being here. Enjoy it. Have a great Friday night. We out.
See you.
Wanted to write fantasy is the play. Marking nothing but I tune every Friday. Strategies provided.